putting this out there for everybody. If any of you see Jennifer touch my stand, you have my permission to reprimand her. She moves it every week. Every week. Okay? Just to get under my skin. And want to wish Maria Romo a happy birthday today. I remember when we went to school, your birthday came around, it's like, I'm not going to school on my birthday. And then you get into an adult, and it's like, well, what else can I miss on my birthday? So it's like kudos to you, Mrs. Romo. You could have skipped church, you could have skipped Fusion. It's like, that's my birthday, I ain't going to Fusion. But you came to Fusion on your birthday, so big kudos to you. We had a birthday present for you. I'm pretty sure Jennifer moved it somewhere, so I'm not really sure. But you're in our hearts and in our thoughts. So happy birthday to you. And if I don't know that I missed somebody's birthday or anniversary, then you need to let me know so I can announce it and give you. Oh, Stan had a birthday this past week. Happy belated birthday to Stan. We won't say your age.
Thank you.
But it doesn't matter, right? So anyway, in the last few weeks that we've been talking about this book, we've been talking about how to empathize with your mate. If you're new and you haven't been here the last few weeks, empathizing is different than sympathizing. Empathizing is actually, we're learning how to actually put ourselves in the shoes of our spouse or the other person. To be able to really understand how they're feeling, we need to be able to put ourselves in their shoes instead of just assuming. But this week, the last week of this book, we're going to turn that concept around. We want you to know that you can also help your husband, your wife, your significant other by helping them to empathize with you. Here's the thing, empathy requires feedback. If you're going to empathize with somebody, you need to have feedback. If you try to empathize without the two-way communication, then you're trying to practice mind reading. Mm-hmm. Because how many of you know or been in that situation before where you look to the other person and goes, I can't read your thoughts. Right? You ever been there?
Oh, yeah.
But the other person is like, well, why not? Why can't you read my thoughts? Don't you know me? Right? You should know me after all this time of being married or being dating or being together. You should know me. But the bottom line is, I cannot read your thoughts. If empathy can do so much for your relationship, and it will, then you need to help your spouse or your significant other empathize with you. You need to open up enough of your private world to let that intimacy, we're not talking about sexual intimacy, we're talking about intimacy in the relationship. You have to open up enough to let that happen. So in this final session today, we're going to be talking about some practical things that you can do, that you can do to empower the other person to understand life from your perspective. They're not efforts to control or change the other person. It's just simply practices that are going to make you much more, make you much more empathizable, if that's even a word. So you have to be able to be empathizable.
I just thought about something as we're reading this. I was thinking, showing empathy is like showing love, even when the other person does not seem lovable or remorseful. And because I was thinking about showing empathy for somebody that has no remorse of their attitude or what they're going through or whatever the case may be. So what that means to me is you have to really try to understand why that person reacts or behaves a certain way. There's a reason for that. It's who they are, their upbringing, etc., etc. So showing empathy goes beyond that other person deserving it or wanting it or whatever the case may be. That's something that you do because that's the right thing to do.
That's good. Most people just attribute it to the other person being a jerk. It's like, they don't get it. All right, so we're going to watch the video, and then I'll come back to you right after that.
We've made it! Woo-hoo! And it was worth every minute. But now what?
Well, here we are, session 6. We've come a long way. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here, and now we're going to talk about how you can help your spouse see your side. This is a critical factor in kind of completing the whole circle of what we've been talking about.
Exactly.
But what can we do in this final session to help it be an easier process and a more frequent process for our spouse? How can we help our spouse see our side?
Exactly. And when we can really get on the team like that and make it easier for them to tune into our emotional radar and that kind of thing, that is really where the power of this is felt between us and our marriage.
Right.
Let's check out Rob and Laura Petrie one more time.
Richie? Yes, Mommy? Daddy's home, darling. You want to let him in? Hi, Daddy.
Hi, Rich. Would you ask your mommy if I may come in?
Daddy said, tell Daddy he's welcome here anytime. She says, yeah.
Honey, it was my fault.
Oh, no, it wasn't. It was my fault.
Let's go ahead, please.
Okay. Hey, this is Kelly.
Oh, Rich, don't drop that.
Me?
No, this is for mommy. Mommy, this is for you.
What is it?
Your favorite thing in this whole world, a complete Chinese dinner.
Do that.
Why? Don't.
Rob, you must have known that I have dinner prepared. Rob, won't you ever learn? Why didn't you call me?
Didn't Buddy call you?
No, the switchboard girl called, but she didn't say that you were bringing home dinner.
I told Buddy to. Didn't he say surprise? Oh, no. If you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself.
You gotta be a wild man, Daddy.
No, I'm not, Rich.
Then I'm not gonna watch television.
Honey, I'm sorry. It's just what I wanted. I wanted everything to be fun tonight.
Oh, darling, so did I. And that's why I fixed your favorite dinner.
You didn't. Spaghetti? Hey, look, just like Nino's with breadsticks and everything.
Crab, duck, egg roll, barbecue ribs,
Moo-goo guy pan.
Roku iPad. Oh, Rob, do you remember the first time you brought it home to me?
Mm-hmm. When you were expecting Rich.
Remember?
You, forgive me?
I guess I should.
You better. I'll eat up all your moo-goo guy pan.
We do this kind of goofy thing in our relationship. You know that phone commercial where it talks about the... sometimes we'll be in a conversation and one of us will just say, how many bars do you see over my head right now? It's our little shorthand of saying, are you tuned in? Am I coming? Can you hear me now?
Well, and it's funny because we're also focused on our cell phones or whatever it is, our iPhone in your case, or whatever it is, and we're always, dropping calls and concerned about that. But we rarely think about, okay, what is my spouse's signal power right now? Do they have the power to even listen to me? And it would really help to know before I download this.
Or are they distracted by a million other things that are going on?
Yeah, and that's what this exercise, this whole time is about, is creating bridges that really increase the bars above your spouse when they can tune into you.
We want to give you 2 practical things that you can do in this exercise, in this session, with each other, as couples and then debrief in your small group. But 2 practical things, takeaways really, that you can put into practice. And the first one has to do with identifying your fundamental need. This is kind of your overarching psychological, spiritual, relational, personal need.
Yeah, because we don't all share the deep feeling that we need the same things from our relationship.
Well, it's because God designed each of us uniquely.
Yeah, what I most want out of our relationship doesn't always match what you most need.
Right. And so let's give an example of what our 2 are. Mine is time. I am kind of hardwired to make good use of my time. And so I get distracted, if something is wasting my time,
Yeah,
I
if
get
you feel
frustrated.
like I'm sort of, impinging on your agenda with time, and you're aware of much that has to get done, that is not a loving thing.
And that kind of spills into being task-oriented too, which is also a high kind of need for me.
You're just hardwired to be urgent and
to get closure on
efficient,
things.
get closure, right? And I don't really share any of those needs.
So Leslie knows there are occasions when I'm not going to be the best empathizer in the world. It's like when I'm at the tail end of doing my email for a certain period, or when I'm writing the final touches to a chapter I've been working on, or something like that. Stay clear. He's not going to be the most empathic person you've ever met.
Yeah, and time is a high need for years. I'm almost never extremely urgent unless the safety of one of my children is at stake. My high needs tend to be more about affirmation and, just feeling that I've got that blessing from you.
Right.
So I'm all about that, and I can wilt if I don't get it. I can, blossom if I do. I'm like a sponge to soak that in.
Yeah, and so I know that Leslie's going to be very low on the care quotient and all the other stuff that we've talked about in this series if she's not feeling that from me. If you're feeling like you're not getting the blessing from me, it's going to be difficult for you to empathize with me.
It's pretty transparent. You can almost see me retreating into a little shell if I don't feel like that need's getting met. And it's just, and I don't want to be like that, but that is one of my deepest needs, and understanding that and me helping you. If I can say, hey, my affirmation bank is so empty right now, I don't have any resources, that really helps you because you're too fragile really to discuss something.
So in your member book, you're going to find a list of some of these basic needs, forceful needs that might pertain to you. What we want you to do is go through that list for yourself, just individually. This will take you maybe 90 seconds. And discipline yourself to eliminate all of them that you can until you're just down to the 2 top needs, all right? These are needs like admiration, affection, approval, commitment, companionship, and so on. Find out what are the top 2 needs that you have, and then we want you to talk about that as a couple. Identify those, talk about it as a couple, and then share it as a group.
Is that noise coming from the cord? No? From the DVD? No. From the soundboard? It's a ghost. All right. We can try to do that. It is, unfortunately, here's what happens, guys, is a lot of these things that we have, I don't want to ever charge you guys for coming here, but that's why you don't have books, is because they want money for each book that you do. So I have the leader book, and I try to give you the information, and I type out the lessons so that you don't have the expense. But yes, I will get that up on there as far as that list. Or if you want to, you can write them down real quick. You want to write them down real quick? Okay. So number 1 was admiration. Okay, and this will be in alphabetical order. Affection. Tell me if I go too fast. Approval. Commitment. Companionship. Conversation. Domestic support. Don't ask me what that is, because I don't know. Domestic support. Is that a nice way of saying help around the house? Because if a domestic engineer is a stay-at-home mom. Domestic support. All right, financial security. Forgiveness. Honesty. Humor. Intimacy. And again, that is not the sexual intimacy. amazing how much power I have over you. Sexual fulfillment. There it is. There it is. There it is. Time and unity. Okay? Now the idea of that was to be able to figure out what are your spouse's two biggest needs. So you're supposed to eliminate the rest of them to find out what the two needs were. Okay? And then that's something that you can talk about on your own. And that's where, you know, I don't feel the need that we need to discuss that as a group. That's something that should be discussed between you and your significant other.
No, but I think that for some of us that are a little older, some of these things can change through the years. Like, you may start your marriage, let's say you're a newlywed couple, and, you know, some of these things are at the top of the list. Then as the years go by, then things shape, things shift. That's why communication is so important. Because what was important at one time maybe is not at the top of the list anymore. So just, you know, be aware that some of these things do change through the years in priority. Whatever age you're at, figure it out. Okay? All right, let's go back to the video and then I'll come back again.
Well, hopefully that helps you identify and recognize the practicality of zeroing in on your most important emotional needs, the ones that pertain to you personally.
And as a way for your spouse to see your needs.
Yeah,
That's great.
when we do that, we highlight them for our partner, and it allows them to step into our shoes, to empathize more easily. Now, there's a set of needs that apply to all of us, regardless of our personality. And if we don't understand these, we can also get frustrated. Why aren't you empathizing with me more?
These are more primary, they're more basic, and everybody shares it. When we're in a certain situation, particularly when we're tired.
These are the three. When we're tired,
exactly.
and that means that you've had an exhausting day at work that was particularly troublesome or burdensome.
Or it's a certain hour of the day, and you know I'm going to crash no matter what. So
10 o'clock at night, don't bring that up, yeah.
When you're hungry and your physical needs are just overwhelming you, you know, it even impacts you physiologically, but it certainly shuts down the ability to empathize.
I know it's for me. That's one thing on my mind when I'm hungry. That's finding food. It's not time to process. Hungry, tired, and then finally frustrated.
Right.
If you or your spouse is frustrated, you're not going to find a lot of empathy in that moment.
No, because you're swept up in what may be angry emotions or at least frustration that is overwhelming to you, and you're not going to be able to set that aside right then, even temporarily, to empathize.
Well, especially when you have all three of those working against you. Now, if you're just frustrated and the other two are met, that's when you can begin to see some benefits from empathy. But bring those three things together, and you're depleted. You're not going to find many resources to help you see the other person's perspective.
Well, in a way, it's a shortcut to empathy. If you can understand those and help your spouse know, hey, I'm too tired, I'm too hungry, you know, whatever it is, I'm so frustrated, I'm not good at this right now. And that really helps.
Now, here's the second takeaway for this session, the last one we want to leave you with. We've been doing this now for years, and we've taught it to literally thousands of couples, and it's called Your Highs and Your Lows.
Yeah, in fact, this is actually one of my favorite things we do. I would consider it one of our daily rituals as a couple.
We even do it with our kids, our little boys now, before we're tucking them into bed as well.
It is one of the best bridges to empathy, and it is so simple to actually do this and fun. You just, you know, choose a time each day. For us, it's at the end of the day, and we'll just say, hey, what's been your high and what's been your low today?
What's been the worst thing that's happened to you today? What's the best thing that's been happening to you today? If you can identify that, this just kind of keeps the relationship fresh. So you really do know each other.
Yeah, and I'll have to say that so often I assume that I know what you're going to answer because, I think, you know, I've heard you report on your day. You pull something out that I would never have imagined. Maybe your high was, you know, whenever you got to sit down and we visited for 10 minutes, you know, at the end of the day. I didn't even know it mattered to you.
Right, the other day I told you that my high was when you went with me to the computer store. And you were like, what? But it was for me, it meant a lot to me. So it's those kinds of things when we can identify the high and the low.
And the low is also a great window of insight, you know, because sometimes things happen to us and we just haven't had the timefulness to download those. And it really gives your spouse that window in.
So here's what we want you to do, is just take a moment right now in your group with each other as a couple to identify maybe the last 24, maybe 48 hours your high and your low. Share that with each other. If you want to take some time to debrief with the group as well, share your high and low very quickly with each other. That would be great, and we'll see you in a minute.
All right. So just so you know, I have now had my aha moment. I have found out the reason why I have not been an empathizer the way that I should. Because my life consists of being tired, being hungry, being frustrated. So honey, if I apologize in public for not being the empathizer, I am all of those things. If not, those should apply to you too. All right, so that's pretty interesting though. Pretty interesting. So they want you to identify your highs and lows for the last 24 hours. I want to reiterate what those highs mean, okay? We don't all want to know, okay, if you're not. I'm just saying, okay? There's always one. So we want to know what, if you want to talk about what your highs and your lows were, how hearing your spouse's high and low is different than assuming what you know or what you think that they're thinking. You can't always know what they're thinking. You may think that you know what they're thinking, but in reality you think that you know, but you really don't think that you know that you think is right. What?
I think.
What I said? Exactly. Okay. So, if you think about your highs and lows for the last 24 hours, anybody want to share? Frank?
We had our volleyball Olympics yesterday, and my team did not win a game.
How many games?
12 games.
And you didn't win 1 out of 12. Yeah, that was your high.
That's depressing.
No, that was your low.
That was my low.
Okay, that was a low.
My
Anybody
high
else want
was
to
when
share
I went to
anything?
bed.
Okay.
Not here, but he's looking hard. Okay, so this, I put into practice what a really, really wise woman told me on Monday. The week I'm gonna do it, okay? So I'm listening to worship music through the day. I was cleaning, doing laundry, and the Holy Spirit led me to just pray all over the house, anointing the house from top to bottom. And when my husband came home, because he had no idea that I was doing it, he walked in, and he always walks in with a smile, but when he walked in, he comes over and he's gonna hug me. And then he tells me, I don't know what it is, but I walked in and I feel such a sense of peace. I mean, it's like big. And in a long time, we had a really, really, really good night. Like for the rest of the night, even the kids when they came home, they didn't fight. So I thought, I'm gonna do this more often. I haven't, but then again, it's just that was my night.
Awesome. Okay, so we've had a high and a low. Yes.
My high yesterday was when he actually got out of bed early to just join me to go visit my newborn niece because he has to work. And yet, he has to rest, but he actually took the time to get up and just join me. And my low yesterday wasn't a good one. We just kind of ended up in a little argument about, scheduling stuff.
What wasn't an argument? It was just a disagreement.
A disagreement, exactly. It wasn't an argument.
He just didn't see it your way.
I wasn't there, so we don't know.
He was tired of getting up.
Right. Okay.
I was frustrated and I was hungry.
Right? Testify. Guys, you got to be careful now, because if you use that as an excuse with your woman all the time, she's going to know that, oh, you just said that because he saw it on the video. But it is what it is, right? Reality is it's actually a good thing to know that those things can affect you actually being, but we know. We know that if you're tired, we know that if you're hungry, we know that if, what was the other one? Tired, hungry, and
Frustrated,
right? We know that those three things can cloud the way that you process information anyway. Yeah. So, but actually, for someone in a professional status to bring this out and say, hey, that's going to cause you to not be able to empathize the way that you're supposed to. That's a big deal. Okay? I think it's a big deal. Anybody else, highs, lows? Yes?
About your girlfriend, we break up with you.
That would, well, it could be a knock or it could it just depends on the situation. You know, if it's a bad situation, then, you know, that may be a blessing in disguise. But at the same time, if you're not ready for that or you're not to that point, a girlfriend breaking up with you can definitely bring you to a low point. That's a good point. Thank you for that. Just realize this, as you try to put those things into practice, all those things that involve empathy, remember, if something is worth doing, it's worth doing badly, okay? You have to be able to understand that not everything's going to happen at first. It's kind of like, you know, whatever you're going to start doing, it's not going to be perfect at first. It's going to take some failure to be able to get to the point where you do things the right way. So I want you to look at, and again, let me just kind of give you a little disclosure for those of you that are new to Fusion. There's always going to be scripture from the Bible that's incorporated into these lessons because we believe wholeheartedly that the handbook for life is in the Bible, and there's a lot of good information that's in there, and you have to be able to see it's not about preaching religion or anything like that. We're just trying to use great words to direct us in our life, okay? If you look at that first scripture of Mark 1:35, and the reason I print it out is because we all have different versions of the Bible, and so we want you to be on the same page as what we're looking at. It says, "Now in the morning, having risen a long while before daylight, he went out and departed to a solitary place, and there he prayed." The thing is that what that scripture is showing is that even Jesus maintained his relationship with his Father through communication, okay? So if you turn around and you ask yourself, or I turn around and ask you, what does that example suggest to you about your relationship with your spouse? Your response to me should be that you realize that communication is huge in being able to maintain your relationship, okay? Maintaining your relationship requires communication. And if you've been coming here for any period of time, we understand that communication is not just, "Hi, how was your day? What's for dinner? How was the kids?" Okay? Communication needs to go way down to a deeper level to be able to share your innermost thoughts, your innermost fears, your innermost joys. You need to be able to trust the person that you're with. If you are not communicating on those deeper levels, you need to work on that. Because when you do that, it will draw you closer together. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. Okay. Another practice that we try to put into place is called setting out the right pair of shoes. Yeah. Oh, I got the ladies' attention with that. Way too many times in a marriage, we play the guessing game. Waiting or wanting our spouse to know instinctively. They should know right off the top of their head where to target their empathy. Kind of like setting out the right pair of shoes means that we need to tell our mate what we need and how we feel. Okay? So what that's saying is, you know, you wear a certain pair of shoes to be casual, you wear a certain pair of shoes to be, well, whatever. I'm not going to get into the emotion that goes behind why you wear 9-inch heels, okay? But what we need to do is, we need to let the other person, it's kind of like going back to that thing is, your spouse is not a mind reader. So you need to let them know what's going on. Where do you need them to feel you? Okay, let me rephrase that, because some of you went left field with that. Okay? Where do I need you to understand me? Where do I need you to empathize with me? Where do I need you to put yourself into my shoes?
I remember when we first started exploring the concept of that we weren't mind readers. That was hard for us in the beginning of our relationship because I really thought that he should know. And he should know what I was thinking because I thought he knew. And I was reading pride issues and some selfish issues and my own issues. But when I realized that, it's true, they're not mind readers. So if you can just explain to your spouse what you're thinking or what you're feeling or what you want, it makes things so much easier. Instead of getting upset because they didn't figure it out on their own. That's unnecessary conflict in a relationship.
So, do you think that you were a mind reader when you were not understanding why I wasn't a mind reader?
I thought I knew everything. I thought that if I was figuring things out of what you wanted and you weren't complaining, I thought, why can't you do that for me? So in my mind, I was that. But then one day you said, I'm not a mind reader. And I was like, oh, no, he didn't. He could just go there. And I was like, so we use it. But then it dawned on me. And I had to accept the fact that you are not a mind reader. Nobody is a mind reader. And you cannot possibly guess what I want, what I need, what I'm feeling. And then I started to share. So that opened our communication. And we started communicating, then, then we started to work on the other things, like the empathy and all of that. But it was a new concept for me. It sounds ridiculous, but for me it was. I expected you to know what I needed, what I wanted.
Yes, you did.
It's not right.
No. But we learned, right? You have a comment, Kathy?
Yeah, some people, well, we had communication issues years ago, a few years ago, and if that person, either person has to allow that person to open to speak so that they can both figure things out. Because if one's trying to figure it out, and the other one says, okay, I understand, they really don't understand what's going wrong, or at least it is us. So, just a more open mind on both sides really makes it easier.
It's amazing trying to keep those things inside, see how far that gets you. Mr. Romo.
And then just kind of going off and making things easier, just as we found out that we're not mind readers. So specifically with us is when I come home, I don't know the day that she's had with our 3 kids. So I can only imagine. Well, I don't want them to. But I used to not put that in perspective. I used to come home going, I had a hard, I worked an 8 or 10 hour day today. I want to come home and relax. Well, she needs a break. I wasn't seeing that because I wanted to come home and relax. So, but after a while, when we were able to communicate the fact that, listen, we've had both rough days in different aspects. So I then knew coming home, she would just need a break. So then now we just we just come up with little phrases or words or whatever to where it's the trigger, like, okay, you need to do this. And so you're not having a mind read, but you know exactly what I mean. So for us, it's like tag in. Okay, oh, dang. All right, let me get changed real quick and I'll take care of these guys.
Kind of like egg salad.
Egg salad.
Right, I got you. All right, so you gotta be certain and be aware of the fact that you're not walking around thinking that you have ESP. Because I will tell you that ESP could very well lead to PSA. And that's person sleeping alone. Okay? Be careful. That the last thing that you want to be married to or in a relationship with is a KIA, and that's a know-it-all. Okay? If anybody is in here that thinks they know it all, please don't raise your hand. Okay? Because you don't. You don't know it all. You may be. I don't profess to know it all, and my wife will absolutely agree with me wholeheartedly. We're constantly learning. We're constantly figuring things out. And again, if you think for 1 second that you can figure out somebody, I don't care how long you've been married, you will constantly figure new things out about your partner as time goes on. If you are married for under 10 or 15 years and you think that you got the other person figured out, oh my God. We're going to laugh so hard at some point. Let me finish my thought. The thing that you have to understand is, it's like, and we've talked about this, you go through your dating stage, it's all good. You go through your honeymoon stage, it's all good. When problems start to come up, you start to learn, oh, okay, I'm not going to do that again because that just sends her right over the edge. Or the same thing may happen with your man. I'm not going to do that because that kind of sends him off the edge. And so you learn different things about yourself. But it takes so much time to get the communication, to get the real feelings, because there's so many things that you hold back. There's so many walls that you have built up because of your past hurts and your past life and all the things that have gone on. And it takes time to get to that point where you really understand the other person, where you can really do the things that make so much of a difference of extending that relationship, going to deeper levels, and being able to work through whatever comes your way. Because it's very easy to throw your hands up in the air and wave them like you don't care. Okay? We know that it's so much easier, it's so much easier to just be able to just take the easy way out. We know, even in our Christian walk, we know it's so much easier to do wrong than it is to do right. It takes effort to do the right thing. And it's going to take effort in your relationship to do the right thing. Well, I'm preaching now. Okay. Hold on. Let me take a step back. Go ahead.
Well, it's exactly what you were saying. You get married, then you have children, and then the children, are in elementary, then they go to junior high, then you have. So, as a couple, you're watching your spouse react to different situations that they've never reacted to before, because with age, and the problems are different, and every cycle or every decade, they're not the same. You have kids in high school, you have, then you have, people in your family that may pass away, your parents or loved ones, or then you get to see your spouse maybe react or do something that you thought that they would never do. So this is why I think we don't want to scare the young people, but this is why we're always changing, because every year brings something new into a marriage, and you deal with it together. And so that's why we're always learning, we're always growing.
That's true.
Because it's never the same experience twice.
That's true. Young people, be very afraid.
No.
Okay? Be very afraid. You have no idea what you got yourself into. No. Marriage is the best thing in the world. Right, honey?
Yeah.
Well, you better believe I'm happy. You tell me that all the time. Yes.
Going off of what Claudine was saying, what we do, we learned in this class a couple months ago, the 6 levels of communication.
Yes.
That for us was mind-blowing, because we thought, oh, we can communicate well, but as circumstances change, our communication has to change, or we're not working, and we love to connect. So, because Mike uses humor in everything, sometimes it's hard for me to know, are you being serious? And so we come up with, no, this is like level 1 or 2, superficial, but when it comes to really big things, we have to tell each other, so this is like level 4 and 5, and you need to really, and so then we're not mind reading, and we can just, okay, now we understand this is a whole other level that we need to communicate on.
We call our communication levels DEFCON. We're at DEFCON 5. Deep communication. And it's important. You got to be able to learn how to get to those deeper levels of communication. And it's not going to look the same for everybody. That's the unique thing. You cannot, there's a lot of phenomenal information that transpires in between all of us in this class. But understand this, and Claudina said this a number of different times, what works for us may not work for you. You have to find what works for you, applying these principles, but in a way that's comfortable for you guys. You see what I'm saying? You have to be able to learn how to communicate with each other, but you have to do it in a way where it's not a threat. You can't come back, well, you're not communicating with me. Remember what he said? You're not doing it, or you're not doing it right, okay? But that's, when you want something from somebody, remember, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, So, it's kind of like, I don't know, let me just put it to you blunt, if you're looking to get intimate in the sexual aspect of it, you're not gonna say, how do you expect to get your mate interested by going, hey, you want to do it? Some of you are twisted enough that that's all it takes, okay? But if you're trying to be, if you're trying to be seductive, if you're trying to be enticing, if you're trying to be, you're going to say it in a way that, you know, you want me to go put the nurse's uniform on or something along those lines, you know, whatever it is that you do. And if you're a nurse, I'm sorry, I take that back. But you know what I'm saying? It's in the way that you try to communicate something with somebody as opposed to just throwing it out there. You know, when you want someone to communicate with you on a deeper level, you can't have that. You're not doing it right. You know, you're not communicating with me. But being able to share your heart and say, I need you to be able to understand where I'm coming from. You know, it's kind of like when people come to me and they ask me, well, how do I tell my spouse this? Or how do I tell my boyfriend or my girlfriend this? It's like, well, how would you tell them? And then I would listen to them and I would say, okay, let me suggest trying this, you know? And it's great because, you know, we're so good at giving advice to other people.
Yeah.
When it comes to practicing it ourselves, maybe not so good, you know? But it's so much easier, and then you sit there and you go, oh, that was good. Maybe I should try that for myself, you know? Because, you know, you can give out some good information when you try to do it in your own way. You have a...
Yeah, I wanted to say that, you know, the title is How to Help Your Spouse See Your Side. And what I have learned through years is that if I'm looking for something, I'm looking for an end result. So what I'm doing is not working. I'm going to try a different method, you know, to get the results or the positive results that I'm looking for in our relationship. So obviously, we all know what does not work. You know, there are some things that doesn't work, like yelling, screaming, belittling, degrading somebody, or trying to force somebody to do something. That doesn't work. We're looking for the results. So what does work? You know, so find out, you know, through communication, how you can motivate your spouse to get the results that you want. Like, we have learned that in order for you to empathize with me, doesn't mean you agree with me. You feel where I'm coming from, but it doesn't mean that you agree with me, and I have to be okay with that. Because, you know, because we're both two different human beings. So, because I used to think that in order for you to empathize with me, you had to agree 100% on everything. And when we finally realized that, you know, as long as we don't have to agree, we can agree to disagree, and you saw things a little different, but you understand, it's like, I understand where you're coming from, and I get how you're feeling, and why you feel this way. And so you empathize with me, and maybe later, you know, when I'm not as upset, we have a conversation to where I see things a little different. But at that moment that I need you to empathize with me, you do empathize with me, then you share why you see things a little different, and then that helps me. So in our personal case, in our personal experience, to empathize does not mean necessarily that you always agree, but that should not be an argument. It shouldn't.
Good. Victor?
Yes, one thing I've learned over the years is that when we come home to this point that we have on the list here, tired, hungry, frustrated, sometimes the wife's been at home all day, probably by herself or with the kids, and they don't have nobody to really communicate with. You come home and they're probably too excited or just, you know, wanting to express themselves with something that happened to them during their day. And us guys sometimes don't know how to confront that. So I learned to check myself at the door before I come in the house. You know, leave everything that I went through during the day outside the house. So when I come in and she asks me a question, I could focus on what she's saying, rather than start comparing notes. Oh, you had a hard day, no, I had a hard day. You know, I've been up so many hours, whatever. Sometimes we tend to do that, but it doesn't help. You know, so that's
good. And sometimes we try to outdo we try to outdo the other person I had a hard day. Oh, you had a hard day, right? And I mean, what good does that do when you're trying to outdo the other person? It's like, and that goes back to the empathy. Why not both of you be able to say, okay, I get it. You had a hard day, I had a hard day. You know, why don't we work together on putting the kids to bed early and let's just kick it, or whatever the case may be. You know, it's in your best interest to be able to work together. You know? Yes.
One thing that I learned in relationships is just, you know what I'm saying, like, without communication and without having trust, you're not going to get nowhere in life. So it's like, you shouldn't even got with that person. But my thing where I failed at is, I don't got communication like that. First of all, I mean, like, you know, arguments to me, I take that real serious. So I mean, like, if you're going to start arguing, I'll be like, yeah, okay, you can do this by yourself. I'm just going to leave. I'm not about to sit here and waste my time, you know what I'm saying, going back and forth with you. Because if I feel like if this relationship can't work, why am I wasting my time?
Well,
that's the way I feel.
Arguments can't happen with just one person, because that's called crazy. Okay? You gotta have two people to have an argument. So if there's an argument going on, whether you hold a large portion of the problem or a small portion of the problem, you are still holding a portion of the problem. And so an argument only happens when two people are going back and forth. You see what I'm saying? And as far as I understand, when it comes to, you know, you're not married yet, you're dating, you know, time is short, you know, it's like, a relationship is an investment. And so there may be disagreements, but you got to understand, and that goes back to empathizing. And I'm not saying what you're feeling is not right. I'm not discounting what you're feeling. What I'm saying is as you get into a relationship, there's give and take. Because it ain't all about you. And it ain't all about, I know it's like,
yeah, I've been to that. I mean, I've been to that.
But it's not
making a sacrifice. Yeah, I've been to that.
You have to understand that when you have an argument with someone, you know, it's not always best to walk away from the situation because it never gets resolved.
okay, okay. Now, don't make them get up and leave. Don't make them.
I'll help that dude.
We got the doors blocked. You ain't
You
going.
got that one blocked, though.
It looks open, but you know.
What's so beautiful about this class here? You are learning how to have effective communication and how to resolve conflict effectively. And this is a great class for everybody. You know, you're single, you know, even the married. Some of us were never taught how to have a healthy discussion without getting into a heated argument. And we had to learn that as we went along. And, you know, you're young enough that you're learning that now, and that's awesome. So kudos to you for being in here.
Yeah. If you keep looking for hold on 1 second.
You just haven't met my spouse.
If you keep looking for perfection, you're going to be a lone child.
I tell you.
There's not. See, I can see someone going to have to give them a ride home. The thing is, you know, what you're learning in here is, like I said, a relationship is an investment. There's going to be arguments. Arguments need to be confined to understanding where the other person is coming from. And you haven't been coming long enough to understand that selfishness and pride will be 99% of your problems. That was prideful, just you doing that right there. Somebody needs to take this boy out. That's all right. You keep coming. You're gonna learn. We're gonna.
Yeah.
Are you guys are friends or seeing each other?
Friends.
Just friends. Oh, then she can tell you anything. She ain't got nothing invested in you, so
that's good.
You know, she's gonna say, all right,
that's
so
good.
Cool. Erica, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Wayne and I used to go to the same thing, and the classes really helped us being here in Fusion, because he used to be the same way, and he'd be like, I'm not even dealing with this with you, you know, whatever, to argue by yourself. But best to believe I would get what I needed to say out if I had to follow him wherever he went. And eventually, yeah, and then it never just escalated to, you know, yeah, and I already talked loud anyway, so anything I said just volume-wise and everything. So, I know, right? Poor Wayne. So after working on him, just after taking these nuggets for myself, I
I mean, but you don't get your point of where we coming from, though, man. Y'all need to
But-
decide.
But see, that's the thing is, you gotta, see, you coming into this game, right now, and so, we gotta take you back down that blue and pink thing, because, no,
I see
seriously.
the picture. I see the picture.
No, but you seeing it in blue, bro.
No, I see it in black and white. I see it.
You see it in blue, but you gotta understand, she sees it in pink. And she talks in pink, and she hears in pink, and you talk in blue, and you hear in blue. So try and take blue and pink together without understanding, okay? And don't worry. What? I know, he's just tripping on what's the pink thing. But no, really, it's, you just keep coming. Just keep coming. And every day when you come here, you're going to walk away with something you can put in your pocket. And it's going to go right up here so that when something happens, if something happens, it's going to be okay.
I wanted to finish saying that the more I respected Wayne and the more I respected his feelings the way that I want to be respected, the more we communicate better now. So he'll notice when something's not right, and even though we have our moments of, where we're still having disagreements and we're not really seeing the same page, we've learned through Fusion and through the mentors that we look at and the women that help lift me up, I've learned that not everything has to be a fight, and that I don't have to feel degraded when he walks away from me. It's just because he's thinking in a different way of, this isn't really something we need to fight over. So when he walks away, I let him walk away, and then by the time I get back to him, I've already forgotten what it is I'm even upset about. So,
Right. All right. Victor.
I'm growing.
Real quick. Selfishness is a good friend of loneliness.
That is good. You got all philosophical. That's good. Right. So that is good. All right. So listen, if you go back to we talked about this, or look at this James 4:2. It says, "You lust and you don't have. You murder and covet and can't obtain. You fight and war, yet you don't have because you don't ask." In what sense could keeping your feelings buried create an opportunity for Satan to damage your relationship? Listen, if you don't communicate, if you just shut down every time something goes on, if you don't learn how to express yourself, all you're doing is allowing the enemy to come in to destroy your relationship.
Yeah.
How do you think it's going to get better if you can't open your mouth to tell somebody how you really feel? And if you're in a relationship with this person, you better be able to express yourself in a way that they can understand.
Yeah.
Because if you're not expressing yourself, and then the first thing you're going to do is, well, things ain't working out, they don't get me. You didn't say nothing.
Yeah.
You got to say something for somebody to understand where you're coming from.
Closed mouth don't get fed.
Right?
Exactly.
If you're going to argue a point with somebody, anybody ever take debate class?
Oh.
Okay?
I didn't need it.
How do you have to? I think that's in the Bible as a spiritual gift. I'm not really sure. But the thing is you have to be able to open up your mouth to express how you feel. If you're shy and timid, if anybody you open up to should be that person that you want to have a relationship with.
Yeah.
You need to get over it.
Yeah.
Because your relationship's at stake, and if you're not willing to open your mouth for your relationship, then you can't go to nobody after it's over and go, I don't understand. You don't understand. You didn't say nothing.
That's right.
So it's kind of like, the dog throws up on the carpet. Don't say anything to the dog. What's he going to do? He's going to throw up on the carpet again.
That's right.
But if you tell him, go throw up on the kid's bed or something like that, and not on the carpet, eventually the dog will learn. Or if you tell him to go pee outside instead of on the carpet, eventually, hopefully, God willing, they will learn.
Yeah.
But if you don't say anything, then that becomes their favorite spot to pee.
That's right.
Same thing goes in your relationship. Oh, I'm overwhelmed. Yes.
It's not even the whole fact of not saying that. 9 times out of 10, if the person can't handle it, then why did you speak? Like some folks, when you speak your mind, they get offended real quick. So it's like that's why some people like to be shy. Just don't say nothing.
Just remember what I said.
Say it, you're delivering.
What you mean? Girl, this girl, hey, I'm gonna have her teach.
No, please don't do that.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yes.
It's not what you say, it's how you
What's
say
the
it.
better way of saying
This is-
something off the top of your chest? What's the better way of saying something and not to be so harsh? What's the better way of saying it?
There is a difference, let me address that. There is a difference in sharing how you feel
Please help
or
me.
just releasing your frustration.
Yeah.
Those are two completely different things. So sometimes what I want to say is not going to help our marriage, so I'm going to keep it to myself. So I'm going to find a way that I can express to you how I feel or where I'm coming from that's going to give us the results that's going to help our marriage. Because the way I want to say it right now is not really going to help. It's going to hurt. So that's something that takes practice. It takes trial and error until you finally get to a point where there are times that I will hold back for 2 or 3 days, something that I want to say, because at that moment it's going to come out, it's going to cause more harm and damage than good. So maybe 2 or 3 days from now, then I think about it again, then I'll bring it up. It's in a completely different tone, or maybe I'll bring it up at all, because it wasn't necessary. It was just having that.
Okay, let me just, you know, we could probably spend the next hour on this, okay? Because everybody wants to school you, okay? No, but here,
But you just said
no, listen,
you gotta say how you
listen,
feel.
listen. No, listen. Here's the deal. What you just heard came out of a woman's mouth.
Right.
Okay? So if you want to be able to understand how they process, right there was gold. Okay? Because I'll give you an example. Okay, I've been married 18 years. I'm going 19 years. Okay? And she ain't killed me yet.
I see that.
No, she tried. But here's the thing. She will tell me when she wants to say something to me, and I have to say this is funny because, you know, she'll say something, and I'll come back with a comment, and then right away she'll get frustrated, and she'll say, okay, let me rephrase it for you. Okay? And basically what she's saying is, let me put it into Scooby-Doo terms so you can understand the way I'm trying to lay it down for you. Because she at a higher level, you know? I can't compete with this. So she has to bring it to my level so I can, you know what I'm saying? So I can understand what, and I got 5 years on her. I'm 5 years older than her.
Right.
Okay? Right. But she way up here intellectually, you know? So you got to be able to respect. Listen, if I asked you, and I don't want to make this class all about you because we're doing that.
It's not all about you. I'm just saying.
No, it's already
just in
past that.
general.
It's all about you. Okay? But if I ask you, what is the #1 important thing to a woman? What's your answer?
It's out of respect.
Okay, you wrong.
It's respect.
Number one need to a woman is to feel love.
Yeah.
Okay, now, you know why you came up with that answer?
Why?
Because that's the #1 need of a man.
That's right.
Is
That's
respect.
right.
I'm just saying. So, but here's the thing, and that just goes to show you why, because here's the thing, you don't make a woman feel like she's loved, she ain't about giving you no respect. You don't get no respect, you ain't about to making her feel loved. And then you all be on a crazy side going, you don't get nothing. Okay, you see what I'm saying? There's your nugget for the day. Okay, you don't even exist the rest of the day. Okay? So here's the thing. I got 2 minutes to wrap this up. So here's the thing. I want to give you this. There's 2 extremes which people resort to rather than simply expressing their needs. Okay, and that is to get angry or to get quiet, right? And so if you do that, you get hints of anger, or you get angry because you don't express yourself. And you got to be able to express yourself so that you don't get angry. See, and that's what Claudina's learned to do. She may get a little frustrated because I didn't get it the first time, but she's going to bring it down. She's going to say it again. But that's her famous line is, let me rephrase it for you. Okay? And no, you don't say it like that. That's how I hear it in my blue, that's the way I heard it. Okay? In my blue headphones. Okay? So let me give you one more bit of scripture. Huh? No, let me rephrase that for you. Okay? Ephesians 4:26-27 says, be angry. Go ahead, be angry, but don't sin. And don't let the sun go down on your anger, and don't give the devil an opportunity. It's okay to get angry. God created that emotion. Angry is an emotion, but it's how you deal with that emotion that will make the difference between things being good and things being bad. What that means is, don't let the sun go down on your anger. You need to resolve things. Maybe not completely, but you should never be to the point where you ain't talking to each other, you sleeping in different rooms with each other. Man, if you think that things are going to be perfect all the time, and your answer to that is, well, I'm not sleeping in the bedroom with you. Man, didn't you grow up? You wanted to be in a big grown-up relationship, but you think by sleeping in another room is the adult way to handle things? That's not the way to handle things. The way to handle things is, you know, when you have an argument, a disagreement, whatever the case may be, there's always going to have to be the bigger person. There's always going to have to be the person that says, I'm sorry, even if they're not wrong. There's always going to have to be that person that takes the higher road. And if you have a disagreement or an argument, and you're to the point where you don't think that being in the same bedroom is in your best interest, then why can't you get yourself to say, look, I don't necessarily agree with you wholeheartedly. I can see that we're going to agree to disagree, and this is not going to get resolved tonight. Nonetheless, come to bed. Right? And so, you know, folks, it's all about growing up. You know, you want to stick to your childish ways, you're going to be a child. We have to grow. We have to accept. Having a relationship with somebody from a completely different background is not an easy thing to do. And now you have interracial marriages and all this. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I love that. But you're talking cultural differences and background differences and gender differences and all these kind of differences that come into play. And you have to take all of that into account.
That is something that's very difficult because I'm Hispanic, you know, Mexican. He's not. That was something that we both had to
Oh, that's nice. He's not.
The reason we say that is because being married, you have to be selfless. You have to take on the nature of Christ and die to the flesh. He will never get me when it comes to the Hispanic side. He can't. He's not Hispanic. He will never feel it the way that I feel it, but that's okay. We made a commitment that we would accept each other and love each other, and I think he has fun. He doesn't feel it like I do. So, and that's okay, but being married, if we can be married and we can make it work, obviously it's because Christ is in the center of it all. But I think that marriage was not intended. I don't think God created marriage so that people could not make it. The reason people don't make it is because they refuse to do exactly what God tells them to do.
That's true. Amen. That's true. All right, so let me wrap this up. If we deal with the problems that we have in a gracious and timely fashion, do you think it would benefit your relationship?
Yeah.
Okay? And so, don't ever hide your true feelings because you're afraid or ashamed. Because the results of that will be very difficult. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Let me do this. Okay? I
just want to know what the first feeling was.
the first Philip.
Thank you.
Okay. So here's the deal.